We often praise ambition without questioning its actual cost. We celebrate progress, promotions, and productivity, yet we rarely pause to ask what is it that is doing it to our mental health. Today's conversation sits right in that intersection, in that tension, whatever you call it, and the question becomes what happens when ambition keeps working, but you're quietly burning out inside? So, yes, you've guessed it right. Welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, where we explore mental well being in a way that fits real life, real pressure, and real growth. Today, I'm joined by Sheekha Singh, award winning author, tech leader, and host of the podcast Rise and Tell with Sheekha. She has spent over a decade inside high performance environments and now has written her second book, which is Unburnable Ambition, which challenges hustle culture and reframes how we pursue success without losing ourselves in the process. So, folks, in this episode, we're going to be talking about ambition, burnout, identity, mental health, all of that, and how it quietly shapes the way we define success. So, I invite you all to this podcast, and Sheekha, it's a pleasure to have you here with me today on the show.
Thank you, Sayan. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, and I have had a lot of conversations about this in the past with some other guests as well. So I'm very curious to know what's your take on this. So, before we get into your book, before we get into the frameworks as well, I'm kind of curious as to when did you personally realize that ambition comes at a cost.
Yes.
And if I can think out loud, that my second question to you would be that if these two can coexist.
Great question. So, yes, when did I realize that ambition came at a cost? This was sometime mid last year. I was juggling too many things: a job, being a good friend, a good partner, a good dog mom, trying to be fit, trying to host several guests on my podcasts. I used to have a podcast recording in the morning before my 9 to 5, and then in the lunch break. And then afterwards, I had at least
I
two
know what you're
per day.
saying. I love a fast-paced life. I mean, man, that's what you're living for.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It came at a cost, though.
Yeah.
In doing all this, and I didn't have an editor or a content manager back then. So what I would do, my whole day would just be wrapped with too many projects. I used to start giving my 200% at everything because that's the kind of person I am. I like to be myself and give everything that I've got in everything that I do. And slowly I realized that this is affecting my mental health, my relationships, the kind of person that I am, everything. And I started slipping slowly. That's when I realized, okay, being an overachiever is fine, but it is actually costing me something. And this is a lot. I am taking on too much. And then I started doing a lot of research.
Hmm.
That's when I came up with the idea of unburnable ambition because I myself was undergoing that. And when I did the research, I realized, okay, there is actual, there are a lot of studies and articles published on how what we are, the kind of culture we come from, how it affects what we do. So I used to think, I love the fact that there are 100 books on burnout and, you have a lot of podcasts, a lot of
And each of them is
episodes.
about burnout at their own, right? Of their,
That,
own perspective, right?
yes, but nothing from the immigrant perspective because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you know what, I think there's a gap and we need to fill that gap. Yes, everyone's awesome and they have their own experience to share, but nobody talks about what it feels like being an immigrant and trying to be that overachiever, get everything, excel in everything, but also be true to yourself. So that
Right.
that would be my answer to your first question, Sam.
Uh,
And then
that's true. I mean, I've myself felt that. But yeah, I'm more curious to know about what you think about the second question. Can they exist at the same time?
definitely, definitely, yes. So you need to learn to make those shifts. And first of all, if you understand that, yes, you're going through burnout, that's a big win. Because as overachievers or as highly ambitious people, we think we can do it all because that's how and that's what we've been doing forever. Yes, you can be good at sports, you can be good at studies, you can be a good student, you can be a good brother, sister, everything. So
Everything.
yeah. So
Which
you
is
can,
true.
yeah.
Which is
So
true. You can be.
you can be. So it's somewhere down the line, it's that quality of ours that becomes our biggest blocker. So the minute you realize that, okay, you know what? Yes, I want to be good at everything, but I need to switch the way that I'm doing things. That's when you can make sure that, okay, you're not getting burned out, but you're also getting your ambitions, your goals, you're doing multiple projects at a time.
Interesting, right? I mean, it sounds like burnout is, in fact, less about weakness and more about kind of a system, right? That we need to sort of build for ourselves, and it keeps demanding without restoring, I would say. So, if we stay that fact for a moment, that yes, they can coexist, like we discussed, from your perspective, I mean, if you look down this trait, right, of high achievers wanting to excel at everything. So, what deeper patterns would you say tend to drive this cycle of overachievement, which comes with exhaustion?
See, that's where I felt like my immigrant background played a huge role in it. And I feel like it's often um, our background and the way we were brought up that plays a huge role. So, you know how when you're growing up, if you're excelling at something, people around you will tell you, oh, he's going to be someone someday, or she's going to be someone great someday. And
Yeah.
when you're, let's say, if you're a school captain or a group captain or a sports leader, whatever, then people have already assumed your future, saying, "Oh, she's
And
going to
that
be our
that is
coach."
what keeps you
Yeah.
on the drive. Makes
So
sense.
those expectations, you carry it with you as you're growing up. And that's I think one of the biggest traits that I felt was the biggest reason for me and why I put myself out there saying, oh, I have to be good at this, I have to be good at that, I have to do this, that. And somewhere down the line, I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one. I know others in my circle who are also the exact same way. They want to be great at everything they do. And I feel so it's the background, it's the culture, but also people around you and how they perceive you and your potential that kind of takes it away from you and force you to do so much more. Even at work, you do something.
Indeed.
Yeah, like if you're a great podcast host, Sayan, even if you don't want to do anything, people will be like, "Oh, you know what? You can do it. I trust you. I completely trust you. You'll kill it." So it's that. So now you're thinking, okay, if they think I can do it, I should definitely do it, or at least I should try to do it.
Right. I mean, I've lived that lifestyle myself when I was in college, specifically, where I was doing a lot of things. So there was obviously college, then there was an internship, then there was, a band that I was in at that time. And, relationships, all of that, comes, I mean, with time, definitely. But, and I'll tell you what I did. I did nothing. So I did that for the 3 years, and after that, I just took a break for about 2 months. I did nothing.
Yeah.
I quit the internship.
Yeah.
They were kind of giving me a job offer. I said no. I don't be yourself, and I dropped out of the band. Unfortunately, I rejoined later, but that's okay. I did nothing. I just
Yeah.
spend time with myself. So, I'm curious to know, and that is now very subjective, right? So I'm curious to know that if you could, perhaps give me or give us a sense of what you have actually wrote in the book, and what is that secret sauce that you would want to share it with the people listening to this podcast?
Definitely, I would be happy to do that. So, in the book, I tell people what it's not. It's not a self help book, it's not a guide. I don't have any 3-step, 4-step framework or a plan. I just want you to be aware of what your ambition is costing you. So, I have clips and snippets from insights from my podcast guests that I've had in the last 2 years. I have well researched articles and science backed insights that link to burnout, the experiences, and our definition of success. One big thing that I felt contributed towards burnout was the idea of success that's in our head. Sometimes it's what your mom told you what success looks like, or what your brother told you, or what your dad told you. But what does success actually mean to you? That's what I
Yeah,
try to help
subjective.
people figure out. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have tips at the end of each chapter where it's just simple things. For example, if you're at work, there's too much going on at work, then I have just like a quick little 10-line bullet point that says, okay, here are the tips that you can do every day. One of it would be start to say no, draw boundaries, even if it's your
Mhm.
family, your friends. If those conversations are draining your energy, just say no. Second would be, you know, 15 minutes to do nothing. Schedule that time. I know it sounds sad. And
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's the best part of the day.
I know, right? Because I started doing that. And that's what I say that I wrote this book because I implemented everything that I spoke about and it actually helped. So schedule 15 minutes for a day where you're actually doing nothing. You're not thinking about anything. You're just staring at something. No phones, no laptops, no screens, just for yourself. 15 minutes. And if you can't afford 15 minutes, then just five. Start with five increment. So things like that. Very practical tips, simple tips. Yes, it's not going to be easy because A, you're an overachiever, and B, you have 100 things on your plate. So
Mm.
it's going to take time, but then start those micro shifts. That's what I try to focus on in the second.
Love that word. Love that word. And you also talked about creating boundaries, which again, personally speaking, I'm not very good at. But it's the uh what should be the right word to say? I mean, it's the intent with how you say the no, right? And I think a lot of people struggle with that as well. So, would you perhaps want to give them an advice? So that would include me as well. But all those who are listening to this right now and are probably thinking that, okay, I have like four commitments today, and then some external factor comes in, and you're drawn to that idea or drawn to that commitment that initially looks more important on paper, let's say. You think that is more that deserves I mean, that is top on your priority list than what the other four commitments that you made back in a week, right? So how do you actually refrain yourself and sort of try to understand what's going on from a you know top level view, um if you could share.
Yeah. First thing I want to say to everybody, you're not alone. You're not the only one who's facing that. I was there, been there, done that. But it started to get so much that I felt like I am being fake. And when I think about, okay, how did that go? Why was I doing it? Like, for what? I don't enjoy certain people's company, but I still said yes to going and meeting with them or having a coffee or sharing a meal with them. And then I thought, why? Nothing, like it just affected me negatively. And then you have to sit down and figure out what's the effect and what's the value. So would you have something better you would have done with that time where you went to meet that person and got your energy drained and sucked out of you? Or you're like, no, I really need that person in my life, and they mean something to me, so I have to fake. First of all, if they're really important to you, they will understand when you say no, because I firmly believe that no is a statement. But yes, we have our friends, you grew up with them, and they don't know how you've changed. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago, but to them, you are still that small little child where you all were playing together, going to the playground, doing all sorts of stupid stuff. But it's very important for us to make sure that our friends realize that, hey, you know what? I am I have other commitments, and it's not that I don't like you or I don't love you. I do, and I still want to be your friend. But
Important.
yeah, but I don't think I can make it today. Just come up with a simple script. Again, it doesn't have to be too serious or too, people will always make fun of you. They're always going to irritate you. I still have my friends who I grew up with who keep taunting me. And, they all come up to me and say, why do you have a calendar all the time? Why do you have a schedule? Why do you come with a start and a stop time? And I'm like, that is how I am. I have other things to do. So, it's going to take time, but do not, like, when you are starting to set boundaries, don't be rude about it. You don't have to be, someone unkind if you don't want to attend something.
Right.
If people are inviting you, then that's for a reason. They want you there for a reason. So if you don't want to go and you don't feel the same way, you don't have to be unkind. You can do it in a very sweet way, saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I've got other commitments. I'll come meet you next time or next month
Yeah.
or some other time." So start doing that slowly. And I would say start with your family, because family is the most complicated people around you, and you are going to have a tough time saying no to them than to people out in your outside circle. It's easier to say no to coworkers. It's easier to say no to neighbors, but not to your family. And those are the ones, that matter the most, because now you know that you've hurt someone's feeling who's really close to you. So keep that in mind. Create a simple script, and it's okay. Let them think whatever they're thinking of you. It doesn't matter. They're not going on the path that you are walking on, so they're never going to understand. And it's fine. As long as you are okay with it, you are responsible for protecting your energy, not anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Very practical indeed, Shikha. And, I was constantly thinking at the back of the mind that always, folks, if you're, in that situation, it's about comparing the utility that you would get out of the two commitments, right? So being aware of that, I think itself puts you in a great spot to say no. Now, how you frame that is, again, it all depends on how empathetic you are towards that person, right? And as Shika already talked about, we can definitely start by starting at the people who are with you, your family, right? And so, Shika, considering we have talked about the kind of the high achievers mindset, and then what drives that, and then how perhaps you can avoid burnout, right? In a very practical way. I want to touch down on for people who are listening to this, who feel stuck between proving themselves,
Yes.
those who are built on that expectations, and also protecting their mental health. What is that one perspective that you would invite them to see for themselves this week?
What does success mean to you? That is all that matters. Whatever you're doing today, wherever you're at today, irrespective of what people told about you 10 years ago, if today, whatever you're doing, you feel, yes, I've made it, then that's it. Nothing else matters. You don't have to think about, oh, when I was young, my teacher used to say, I'm going to be the next Abdul Kalam, or I'm going to be the next, you know, Sachin Tendulkar, or whatever.
Hmm.
But today, if you are earning enough for you, yourself, your family, and if you feel your lifestyle and everything that you do in a week is giving you immense happiness, and you're like, yeah, you know what, this is love,
That's it.
I've done it, that's it. Nothing else matters. That is all that matters. And I've learned that the hard way, because same thing, like you said, the expectations that we have from people around us and our teachers, parents, everyone, that defines most of your adulthood. That defines most of your 20s, your choices that you take, the course that you take. I keep telling this story to everyone, and I've mentioned it in my first book too. Whenever people would ask me, what do you want to become when you grow up? I would say, I want to be a DJ. And, and then, and this is in Hyderabad in like what, early 2000s, I would say. And then later on, I participated in an elocution competition, and I think I won. I came back home to my mom and I said, I want to be a journalist. And my mom's like, you know, that doesn't pay well, right? And when time came, she just gave me two choices, actually, just one. So, again, because it's not in your hands, like you're not earning, then you don't have the luxury or the privilege to choose what you want to do. But now when you're old enough, you get to decide. So you decide for yourself, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I've made it, I'm happy, I'm good, this is what
That's
I wanted out of
that.
life, and that's it.
Very powerful statement by you, Shikha. And for all of those who are listening to this, I just want you to take it away from this conversation that, folks, ambition doesn't need to be extinguished to protect mental health. It needs to be redesigned so it no longer consumes the person who is chasing it. So I want you to leave today with that message. Um, engraved in yourself. And for people who are listening to this, Shikha, where can listeners find you, your book, and learn more about the book itself?
Yes. So all the information is on my website, shikhasingh.com. And I have a podcast called Rise and Tell with Shikha. And you can find both the books on Amazon and the podcast on all podcasting platforms. And if you want to reach out to me personally, then my Instagram handle is Sheekha Singh underscore writer. And then there's also another Instagram page for the podcast as well.
Perfect, brilliant. I'll include the details in the show notes for you folks, so you can find them at ease. And with that, we hit today's minute mark on Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. And if this conversation resonated with you, I want you to take a moment to reflect on how you define success for yourself in your own life. Because we all agree growth is important, but so is staying mentally well while you grow. Until next time, take care of your mind as you build your life, and I'll see you in the next one.